Welcome Summoners, you're here with Quickshot and we're going to be taking a look at the jungle and how to jungle effectively. Jungling in League of Legends is extremely important as it allows one additional player to farm at maximum gold and experience while setting up ganks and team kills for your team. Having a look at some of the creeps in the jungle, the reason you do it. First and foremost is our Ancient Golem. This is the blue buff Golem, and after killing this Golem, you will receive 20% cooldown reduction and massive mana, energy, and fury regeneration for as long as you control the buff. That creep along with this Lizard Elder spawns every 5 minutes. The Lizard Elder will give you a red buff, and the red buff provides a small damage over time, as well as an active slow on your enemies. Looking at some of the other creeps, you also have the wolves, the wraiths, and the double golems coming up shortly. The rest of these creeps are primarily here just for experience and gold gain, and to give your jungler the best possible chances of keeping up with your solo carry lanes. Each of these buffs provides you a small amount of hit points and mana regen, and the longer they stay alive, the more gold they will end up providing you. So let's have a look at an example run through with Nocturne in this particular case. Starting off at 1 minute 30 with the Wolf Camp, you see he throws his Duskbringer ability and picks up the Wolf Camp really quickly. Following this, Caitlyn will then shoot the blue buff in the back to pull the Golem. Always ask your mid laner for a pull. It allows you to apply some extra damage while receiving less. The more health you can keep in the jungle, the better. When the blue golem gets down to around 425 hit points, that's when you want to be using your smite. Always remember to save smite for the killing blow. If an enemy jungler is around and he has his smite up, this is going to end up being used to steal your buff. So be sure to practice timing on that ability. After you've completed the blue buff and the wolves, you'll head down to pick up the wraiths, which should give you an extra level, and finally stop off at the lizard buff or your red buff camp. Once you have double buff, both blue and red, you should be ready to gank. You will have noticed that our mid laner has disconnected, so this would probably be a good time for me to head up into the mid lane and cover for our AP carry. Alternatively, if you decide not to do that and want to carry on jungling, you can of course just continue to pick up creeps. Remember though, your primary job is always to set up ganks and always to find kill opportunities. What I've done now is I've flashed through an introduction to Lee Sin. We followed the exact same path, but instead of going down for double golems, I've noticed that Malphite is very low on the bottom lane. I also know my damage abilities with Lee Sin. It's enough to kill a half health Warwick at level 2. So, moving into the lane, I use Safeguard to dash to an enemy creep and attempt to land my 10% cripple, but he's just out of range for that. I do know that with my red buff I can slow him down though. So, I land my Resonating Strike, dash up to him, keep applying the slow with the red buff, and I do have to burn the flash to pick up the kill, but using flash to pick up a kill, especially at 4 minutes, is always well worth it. So, if you'd like to look at some of the other champions that you can jungle with, you can of course look at some alternatives, like Maokai. Here we have a champion who focuses in ability power for his damage mostly, and provides a predominant utility to the team. With a long-range snare, a small knock-up, and his AoE damage reduction from his ultimate, Maokai is a brilliant addition to any team game. What we've done is we started at 1 minute 5 seconds, tossing a sapling into the Wraith Pit, and following it up with 2 additional saplings, with the third one landing at exactly 1 minute 40. 3 saplings plus 2 auto attacks kills the entire camp. After the camp's done, we head up to the blue buff, ask our mid laner to pull blue buff for us, and by the time we finish the wolves, the race will have spawned again. Obviously getting extra creeps, extra gold, and extra experience is always going to give you an advantage. Keep this in mind when looking at other champions and who you'd like to play, because each of them have their own unique style of clearing out the jungle. Do not forget though that your primary task is always to help your allied champions and always to find kills where they're there to be made. As you can see here, a high level Nocturne tears the bots apart when he knows what's going on. Pay careful attention to our minimap just before we close up for the jungling tutorial. You'll notice that both the blue buff and the dragon are warded. Always remember that as a jungler with smite, if you can get wards on the enemy buff and steal their buffs, or ideally steal dragon or Nasher, that is your primary job. You'll notice dragon will spawn every 6 minutes, so be sure to time it when you take it down, and keep all this information in mind the next time you try to jungle. I have been Quickshot, and it's been a pleasure.